Hello and welcome to Combat Mission Black Sea. I'm your host, Chu, and today we're playing a strategy/simulation game that was once the hypothetical turned into something a little more real nowadays. Today we're taking on the Russians as the 72nd Ukrainian Mechanized Brigade in an effort to save Kiev by counterattacking the Russian encirclement. For Mission 1, our objectives are fairly simple. We're to break through the Russian lines, or at least the initial screen. And with that said, one of our tactical brigades have been deployed here with a platoon of modernized main battle tanks screening the front. As for an introduction to the combat mission line of titles, the series has always tried to simulate tactical combat to the best of its ability. With the recent engine improvements, it aims to model this on a one-to-one level, simulating command links, supplies for various units, spotting, and other additions to warfare, especially inside this particular title as it departs from World War II. Our tanks reach a small hill in the middle of the field. I asked the two tanks behind this hill to gently cross over the top of it, getting us information in the town, and I asked the other the tanks to press forwards along another route concealed by this hill. As our tanks move forwards, they'll quickly begin spotting enemy AFVs. Spotting is modeled inside the combat mission as each and every single crew member inside our vehicles will begin identifying targets and respectively warning the other people within their groups and other groups. You'll see here that the game can be played in real-time mode or turn-based mode. I'm currently playing the turn-based mode, which causes a few unfortunate turn ends such as that. Anyhow, with one vehicle down, our tanks are free to move forwards. Sometime later on, our tanks are lased by an enemy vehicle. With our modernized tanks, our crewmen are warned of this. They discharge their smoke launchers and try to pull back. A second vehicle is found and is taken out, but just before it discharged its own smoke launchers in an attempt to escape. Our other tanks here are seen crossing another small hill in the middle of this field. Looks like on the right flank another vehicle where a vehicle sound contact of some sorts has been identified by one of our vehicles. One of the unique things about the combat mission line of titles is that spotting is relative. In a sense, you'll see here that this tank knows about this sound contact, whereas it hasn't had the chance to warn the other vehicles, and as such they aren't contextually aware of this. It finally identifies the vehicle, fires a shot, and unfortunately the trees seem to have absorbed the projectile. Since the initial screen of enemy armored fighting vehicles appears to be destroyed, I decide to move up our heavy weapons platoon and their supporting APCs/AFVs. But before we do so, I ask my tanks to deploy a smoke screen so to cover the deployment of these forces. It looks like our tanks had managed to hit the ammunition rack inside that vehicle, causing it to blow and explode all of its munitions as well. Many times, in fact. With the situation looking so far so good, I get the tanks to press forwards, the weapon platoon to deploy, and the assault teams to begin moving forwards, getting ready for the assault upon the town. I've got to say, those trees are really eating these armor-piercing shells quite well. It looks like the Russians had more AFVs than I had originally suspected, but our tanks make short work of them. I want my assault teams to begin clearing out the town, and as such I get the weapons platoon and their APCs to unleash a deadly barrage on the town, suppressing enemy forces as best as they can. Our AFVs are armed with 4 HCGM missiles, but more importantly a 30mm autocannon that's just able to shred enemy infantry and other soft targets alike. I get them to open up fire on the tree line as well as some of the buildings, some of the noticeable buildings on the horizon. The next portion will be critical to the completion of this mission. My AFVs in the front are tasked with dropping off the infantry and providing them fire support. But before we drop off the infantry nice and proper, I order every single vehicle to open up. Our infantrymen will be especially vulnerable when they exit their vehicles, and as such, I'd prefer it if we had everything suppressed beforehand. Our tanks lay out shells into the more structurally intact buildings, especially stone or concrete buildings. And our infantry deployment seems to go out without a hitch. All of our forces are deployed, no new targets have been shown to us, meaning that the Russians have most likely pulled back. After some period of time, I decided to switch off the autocannon fire and swap it for heavy machine gun fire instead. Depending on the span of the campaign, your forces' losses, ammunition levels, and other things carry over from mission to mission, and as such, we should conserve our 30mm rounds for later on inside the campaign. Our infantry have noticed a band of, from the looks of it, Russian HQ squad moving around, most likely retreating. Unfortunately, our advance through this field is quite chaotic, meaning that some of our infantry units are unable to spot things which would be ordinarily quite close to them. Each and every single individual infantryman spots targets and communicates them forwards. Given our eye in the sky view, we might not be able to tell what exactly the conditions are in this field. I'd imagine that the crops might be a little too high for them to see over. As our infantrymen get close to the edge of this road here, I get my armored fighting vehicles to support them and to press forwards along with them as to provide support as we enter the town nice and properly. As our vehicles draw upon the town, the Russians surrender and the battle ends. As it turns out, we had suffered 2 losses, 3 wounded. The enemy had lost 25 men and looks like they had suffered 8 or so wounded. They lost 7 armored vehicles and at the end of the day they only had 18 people left all on the map. Taking a look at the after-battle map, it looks like there were a small detachment of Russian troops still hidden inside the field, given the presence of so many crops and all. In addition, inside the town, a lot of the Russian forces were found hiding behind their buildings, indicating that our suppressing fire had managed to force them to pull back out of the buildings into the safety behind them. This concludes our first mission inside the Shield of Kiev campaign. Be sure to like and subscribe for more.